Well, hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, the world. I love technology. Here we are speaking with Dan Wiley and Eyal Manor. So I'm really excited. My name's Eddie Doyle, and here we are at Checkpoint Software. We are launching a reboot and a redesign of a system that I think you all know quite well, but we are putting the Checkpoint philosophy on it, the prevention philosophy all over XDR, MDR. It's going to be very exciting. Hey, let's start with this. So Dan, let's start with you.
You got it.
A while back, you launched the incident response team at Checkpoint. And I think every Checkpoint employee, 6,800 people, are tremendously excited about this. And I think what we're going to talk about today was birthed out of that. And so take us right back to the very beginning. What problem did you see and what are you solving for? Let's get right into it, man.
Yeah, so the IR team's been jumping into chaos for the last 10 years. And when COVID hit, there was this massive onslaught of attacks. And we started seeing hundreds and hundreds of attacks every week. And there was a common theme. And the common theme was there just wasn't anybody to actually respond. There wasn't anyone to actually defend. There was no one there to actually prevent the attacks that were occurring every single day. And it was getting hard, man. Like at the height of COVID, most small to medium-sized businesses didn't have the staff, didn't have the personnel, didn't have the tools, didn't have the capabilities, didn't have the skills. And then they all left because they all looked for new jobs, because at the end of COVID, everyone's like, I'm out. So,
Right.
you know, I think it sort of just became this giant crescendo of all these things coming together. And we said, we've got to do something different. We got to try a different approach to get security operations in the hands of all of the people. And that's what we built. MDR, XPR, all of it put together.
Eyal, you've been on these live stream shows with me quite a few times. I remember 1 o'clock in the morning once your time. I think we're getting you at a more decent hour this time. Thank you for serving us from our head office in Tel Aviv. And so just give me your take. You know, when did you come into this? Like right at the very beginning, what's the foundation for you when you started having these conversations with Dan? You know, before you even started building this product, like, you know, what were you thinking and how did you get involved?
Hey Eddie, thanks. First, it's only 6 p.m. here in Israel, so this is a decent time. Thank you for that. And you know, it's a great question. And we are trying to look at any point of time, and this is a part of our DNA, how we can prevent threats, how we can prevent attacks from entering the organization, how we can do it in line at real time, so just threats are not coming into the organization. And we're talking at this time with security operations organizations, with analysts, with hunters, tier 1, tier 2. And they're obsessed all day with hunting and taking over the incident queue. And they're so busy. And we're seeing that many companies, many vendors, many security solutions are trying to make them become more effective. But they become more effective in hunting. They become more effective in correlating the data. And we tried to tackle that from a different direction. Let's make them more effective by preventing more threats. And this is how we brought managed detection and response and make it managed prevention and response, or extended detection and response and make it extended prevention and response. So we are empowering the SOC analysts by preventing more threats before they're coming on their table. This is how it came.
You just brought out the cynic in me, because when you talk about, you know, threat hunting, it's all very sexy, right? It's like, yay, let's go out and hunt for stuff. You know, preventing stuff, you know, not letting anything into the castle is perhaps a little more boring. You know, there's nothing to hunt, but that's the right way to do this. So, ladies and gentlemen, you're always going to be talking. We are always going to be talking about prevention as part of our DNA. And I love to say this: pick your poison. This is the choice you get as a human being in life, as a matter of fact. It's pick your poison, the lesser of the evils. Either you block unknown threats, because, you know, look, you know, pick somebody in the top right-hand quadrant, you can block known threats. All right, easy enough. We give out all our indicators of compromise actually for free at Checkpoint, and there's 90 billion of them. So you can do that, but blocking the unknown threats, well, that's art. right? There's science and art involved in that. And, if you don't do that, it's, well, pick your poison. You can either block unknown threats and have a tiny amount of false positives, or you can let in unknown threats and then deal with the threat actors one on the inside. Pick your poison. That's the choice. I want to say hello to a few people who have joined in, and I'd love to have questions. So we're getting hellos from all over the world. Thank you very much for saying hello. We would love your questions. Even on YouTube, people are watching us. Thank you so much. That's grand. Please jump in, though, with questions, comments, challenges. You are talking to two of the smartest people in cybersecurity. I mean that with sincerity, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, we gather around great and smart people. So there's a guy at the top of our organization who is very great and incredibly smart, and that attracts other smart people. So Eyal and Dan are some of the best that you're going to talk to in the industry. So please jump in with comments and questions. All right. So let's go to the difference then between conventional managed detection and response and what Checkpoint is doing to it. So either one of you, first tell us, what is conventional managed detection and response doing? And then we're going to launch into how has Checkpoint improved upon this model?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take it, Eddie. So the first thing is, look, there are many, many vendors that will connect your technology to their platform and monitor those technologies and find threats and maybe even respond to those threats with isolation and scanning and other capabilities to block and tackle the attack that has come in. And that's typically where it stops, is they give you a good warm and fuzzy that someone's whack-a-moling the next mole, which is fine, and that's okay, and you need to do that, right? You shouldn't stop doing that. But we said again, this is dumb. Why are we not learning the lessons every single time that we have a detection and a response? In IR, they teach us very clearly that you must have a lesson learned, and you need to implement that lesson learned, and that's where the MPR portion comes in on our side. So for every single case that we're handling inside of the solution, we're providing remediations and recommendations. And those recommendations are your roadmap to ensure that you can turn on, enable protections. We even help our customers turn those protections on proactively for Checkpoint and non-Checkpoint products, because customer networks are dirty. You got to keep them clean. And the way you keep them clean is by enabling those protections, elevating your security, going up the maturity model continuously, or you just don't have a chance.
Yeah, you're talking about one of Checkpoint's fortes, right? Policy. I mean, I think Gil Schwed and the team that gave birth to this entire industry and company nailed it when it came to policy and unified policy, keeping it clean. So what are some of the things, though, that we're actually doing? So you mentioned technologies. What are these technologies? And then give us a case study. When somebody, and Eyal, jump in by all means, when somebody is when we're receiving this data, you said, we've got technologies turned on and we're giving recommendations. What are they? Like, bring us into the real world here.
Yeah, so we actually had one recently, a customer in Southeast Asia. They had all of our Harmony technologies enabled. The environment was deployed with quantum gateways and had all of our Checkpoint stack everywhere. A user turned up one day and decided that they were going to plug in their USB key, and they plugged it into the computer, and we get a detection violation. And the detection violation was in detect mode because the customer wasn't comfortable with putting it in prevent. We immediately saw that alert. 5 minutes, we were able to isolate the endpoint, do the detection and the investigation on why it triggered. It was a 0-day nation state attack against an energy company.
Okay.
This had never been seen before. We were one of the very first organizations in the world to see it.
Wow.
That led to a much bigger conversation about what do you do for USB security? Well, the first thing you do is you turn it on and don't leave it in detect. The second thing you do is put some GPOs and GPO settings around Active Directory to ensure that you know what keys are being inserted, what their uses are, and all of the other security controls associated with Active Directory with USB. And we can even talk about the second person that received this file, who the user handed the USB key to, and they plugged into their computer. And so we did the same thing and, responded to it immediately, isolated it, stopped the threat, within the 5-minute window. But the third person that got the USB key, it was blocked across the entire environment globally on millions and millions of endpoints because we'd already put on all the protections everywhere in the entire company.
And then
that's the power.
Did we do something with that 0 day? So then what happens in the big checkpoint machine? I know that's outside of your department, as it were, but what happens to that 0 day? Because we now need to, look, I mean, I'm being sincere here. We now need to save the world from this 0 day because it's out there, right? What happens?
Yeah, the first thing we do is we share it with our research organization, and the research organization literally dissects it like an autopsy. They're taking the brain out. They're taking the arms off. They're taking all the organs out. They're literally decompiling every element of the attack to understand the who, what, where, when, why, and how of this actual attack. We do a good first, we put them through the MRI machine. That's what we do. The researchers dissect it to the DNA level. And that's critical because now you can understand other patterns that might emerge, and you can put those patterns in the machine learning and put them in the machine, and the machine starts looking for these patterns, and we stop that threat even faster the next time. And we continually enrich this learning process that really powers all of these cool AI machine learning things. It's lessons. You got to give them a lot of lessons. And that's part of the MDR, MPR, XDR, MPR solution, is bringing those lessons to reality and making them actionable.
Damn, I'm so envious. This is so exciting what you guys do for a living and how you coordinate all this stuff. Eyal, I know you've got something to say because I can see you very enthusiastically. Yeah. Jump in.
No, I'm happy because, your first question was about our prevention first approach, managed prevention and response, and how this is different than what everything else is doing. And then is giving you the angle of the service itself. And I want to zoom out a bit and look at the angle of the product, the angle of what the customer gets. And when we are thinking about managed prevention and response, then Checkpoint also provides all of the enforcement points to our customers, to organizations who are using our solutions, whether these are security gateways in the data center, perimeter, IoT devices, cloud assets, endpoint, mobile. And each and every one of those assets is by default working in prevention mode as well. So even before the data is getting to Dan's group, to Dan's area for the managed prevention response, many of the elements are being prevented. Now, you asked an excellent question. So Dan was finding this 0 day attack, giving that to researcher who are feeding our big intelligence engine. We call it Threat Cloud. It takes us exactly 2 seconds to populate this data to all of the Threat Cloud instances over the world. And this is streaming to millions of enforcement points that can block that immediately. So every day we're seeing the same thing. We're finding a 0 day, and then you can see that 1 hour later, 2 hours later, 3 hours later, they're like, sometimes it's dozens, sometimes it's hundreds of organizations who were prevented already from the very same incident that we identified for patient 0.
That's
so
fantastic.
This circle of enforcement points and the service are making it such fantastic.
Yeah, that is brilliant. I need to get some questions here. This is so cool. All right, so a quick hello from some colleagues in Brussels. Wonderful. Now we've got a question here from Venkatesh. I hope I nailed your name, my friend. Give me a thumbs up if I did. What is that? What is something new Checkpoint is going to introduce in MDR, and how can we recommend this solution to our clients? Okay, I think the question is really based on recommendation. If I'm understanding your question correctly, Venkatesh, what is it that's new about MDR, and how can you recommend it to your clients? Maybe you're one of our partners, and if you are, wonderful. Or it doesn't really matter. Listen, let's get this product out there to help people. So, who wants to tackle that one? I think it's how we can recommend the solution is what you should focus on when you're answering the question.
I think you can sum it up with one sentence. Security operations as a service. We will watch the threats, we will detect the threats, we will respond to the threats, and then we will prevent the threats from ever happening again. the full life cycle of security operations in a service that you can subscribe to across both checkpoint products and non-checkpoint products. Simple as that. We're there for you.
Brilliant. And the non-checkpoint products thing surprised me, actually, because as you say, you know, data centers, if we're calling them that these days, I'm not sure what they are, networks, I mean, it's just that we're all over the place, endpoints, clouds. It's messy, as you say. So gee, that probably took a fair bit of energy, no, to study somebody else's product and be able to manage it effectively. I mean, talk to me a little bit about that. Was that a hell of an obstacle to overcome?
The obstacle is not the individual, but the entire landscape. So our game plan is to support 150, 200 integrations. That's our roadmap. It takes a little longer than I thought to be able to integrate every single one of these integrations. But what we're doing is fully understanding the capabilities and then applying them into the platform to give you every ounce of go-go juice out of every single integration that we're doing. And it's already paying off. So we're already monitoring the Microsoft Defender ecosystem with great effect. We have a handful of customers that are just only Defender customers. They only have the Defender suite. But what's interesting here is that they start seeing that there are deficiencies in their architecture, and we help the customer with the partner and ourselves to start identifying ways that we can elevate their security capabilities. Like, I'll give you a great example. Microsoft Defender is one of the best endpoint products you can buy. They have a very large deficiency when it comes to browser protections because they rely on Edge to do most of the browser protections. This is actually a big problem because Edge does miss a lot of things because it doesn't have a sandbox, it doesn't have emulation, it doesn't have phishing protection, it doesn't have credential protection, it doesn't have the 15 other little things that are getting people in trouble. And you see this, the attackers are adapting their capabilities hour by hour. When Microsoft turned on and off the macro capability inside a Word, it had an effect because there were no security controls for it. This is the point, is that there's always these gaps in architectures, and we're filling them with both services and products to start filling those gaps for customers.
Right. Okay. Fantastic. Let's say a quick hello to a few people out there across the world. Hector, hello. Thank you for joining us today, as well as Sammy, David Miller. You're out there today. Wonderful. Thank you. We've got a hi from I'm going to guess that's Mr. Gupta. I'm going to use that one. That's much easier to pronounce, my friend. And hello, Angel. Wonderful. Thank you for joining us. And that's probably from Latin America there. Okay. So what does a customer need to do? Let's say they're interested. Give us the journey of somebody adopting this technology. What's the first thing they're going to do? They're going to reach out to their local account team and they're going to say, "Hey, that thing that Eyal and Dan were talking about, I want that thing. Let's go test it." Is that what happens? So they test drive it. What's the first step?
Exactly. I will start a bit before that, then, because
Okay.
we'll articulate a bit about the two elements that we've just announced, and then go ahead and talk about the managed prevention and response. We've actually, Eddie, introduced just yesterday, as a part of our new suite called Horizon, we've introduced a product and a service. And both of them are very interesting. So then we'll talk in a second about the managed prevention and response. At the end of the day, the very first thing that you need to do as, for example, a customer or an enterprise that wants to do it is decide whether you have a SOC organization and you want a product where you'll be able to manage your incidents and to get preventions and be able to investigate and hunt. And then what you need to do is just go to our portal, portal.checkpoint.com, get an account. You'll see our new Horizon new pillar in the menu, and just go there and start connecting your data sources. It's that easy. The second element, I guess that you are showing that. So this is a very, very interesting. Everybody that is watching us today or later, open your browser. It can be Edge, it could be Chrome, it could be your favorite browser, and go to www.portalcheckpoint.com. If you have an Infinity account, if you don't have one, you can create one. And you can see the very new pillar that we have announced yesterday, Horizon, joins the siblings Quantum for network security, cloud security, and user mobile and endpoint security. I just need to go here and choose whether you want the product, which is extended prevention and response, or whether you want the service that is manage the SOC for you. So this is the framework, and then let's talk about how easy it is to get on board to SOC as a service.
It is straightforward. All you need to do is bring your API keys. We load those API keys into the MDR MPR platform, and within 5 minutes, we're monitoring your environment. Literally 5 minutes. And this is actually going to get even simpler in RD 120. If you have a Quantum RD 120 infrastructure, there's going to be a window, and you click a box, and you're done, and you're subscribed. Now, there's some SKUs and some, payment terms and credit cards that are involved, but all that other stuff, forget about it. It's literally a click of a button, and it will provision all of the plumbing for you. And that's the other big problem with all of these other competitive solutions is it takes forever to get this shit to work together, right? Like you have to, open ports, you have to create API keys, you have to authorize and create users, and you have to have data retention policy and data sovereignty issues and all of that jazz. Literally, you'll click a button and you'll be able to provision any of the things you've heard about, Horizon Events, Horizon XDR XPR, and Horizon MDR MPR. Click of a button, deploy.
That's fantastic. You know what? That discipline was probably birthed out of your IRT stuff, because when people are under duress, they need to get to you like that, don't they? They need to get to you fast.
Yep. Yeah, 15 minutes. Our goal to deal with anything, either IR, MDR, any event, we want to be on top of it, understood, start remediation plans within 15 minutes. That's our goal.
It reminds me of quite a few years ago now, but a customer who in their data center, because of the urgency of, if they suspect they're under attack or when they're definitely under attack, this is crazy, has a machete in the data center to cut wires. And I'm like, buddy, there's a better way than that. But he had a machete in his data center. And I'm like, well, I guess with fiber optics, that might be fairly fast, but not with a Cat5.
No, you're whacking at it.
All right, walk me through. So I'm going to share my screen here. Walk me through then some of the differences. Okay, I hope you can see my mouse just sort of circling here. So we've got MDR MPR. All right, so that's the first thing. The P is checkpoint, ladies and gentlemen, prevention. We will keep saying this for the rest of our lives. And then, of course, we've got XDR XPR, then events, then SOC, and policy. So should we start at the top? What is the difference between these 5 things?
All right.
And why have we split them out?
Let's talk about them. And I think that we'll focus today on the first 3 things, which are the brand new in our announcement, and we'll make it easier today. And I'll start actually with events, because I think that events is the cornerstone for both XPR and MPR. Now, what events means? Event is the area, this is the data lake, this is the single source of truth where we are bringing, importing, and keeping all of the events, the incidents, the cases, the tasks from each and every one of the enforcement points, whether this is a checkpoint enforcement point like the ones that you see on the right, or whether these are external third parties events that we are bringing. So think also here about many organizations that you are having like 3 or 4 different tools, and you want to know, for example, something that relates to, hey, an incident that relates to Eddie and yesterday. So why should I go to 3 or 4 different consoles and ask them what Eddie done yesterday and stitch the data in my head? Go to events and everything is there. This is where you manage your views, your reports, your queries, your retention. And if you are working with a SIEM, then this is also the area where you'll connect your data into the SIEM. Now, on top of that, you can see the XPR and the MPR. The big difference between them is that the XPR is the product. This is for organizations who are having SOC team, and they want to see the alerts, to assign them to people, to do the investigation on their own. And the MPR is exactly our main discussion today here with Dan. This is the managed solution. The more flexibility we will give you, Mr. Customer, for the MPR, it means that we did our job in a lesser way. Because the idea for us is to do as much as possible and leave this work to us. Right, Dan?
Yep. The whole idea is to make your lives easier. You've got a trusted team that's comprised of dedicated MDR analysts that are globally deployed, following the sun 24/7, 365. Every microsecond, there's someone watching. Also backed up by our incident response team. So if there is something that goes bump in the night and we need to really jump into the fire immediately without hesitation, the IR team is already on board with the MDR team, and they're watching all the cases together all day long. And then, like we talked about, the CPR organization, the research organization, is also tied to the delivery of the service, where we're constantly sharing intelligence, understanding false positive, true positives, just making your checkpoint experience even better. And if we have to dive in even deeper, we have another 100 people that can come and analyze a problem. This entire organization is about 200, 250 people, I think now. It's increasing all the time. And we're singularly focused on protecting you, period.
So that's the key, right? It's people, right? There are people behind this. You mentioned a couple of hundred people. Let's talk a little bit about who those people are. So we've got some superstars at this company. You've mentioned, I think, 3 different groups. So there's your incident response group. We've got our CPR checkpoint research group, and we've got what was the third group you mentioned?
The MDR team, a dedicated team of analysts.
Dedicated team based on this product. All right, let's start. Incident response. Talk to us about that team. That's your baby. That's your team, Dan. So who are these people, right? What kind of qualifications do they have? And I don't mean degrees. We've all got degrees. That's easy. I mean like real qualifications. Why are they qualified to be entrusted to a company's crown jewels? That's what we're asking for, right? We're asking to trust us.
People ask me what kind of folks do we hire for IR, and I say I hire edge cases, because if mainstream folks don't want to run into fires every day, there's a very specific type of person that is a fireman or a firewoman, or are doing any of these social services kind of activity, is a very small number that will willing to go into a firefight. They also are really inquisitive. They don't trust anything unless they validate themselves multiple times. And they're also incredibly intelligent. And again, I don't, how do you qualify intelligence? Well, I have one person on our team right now that is the #1 password cracker in the world. Right?
Wow.
I have another person on the IR team that's is one of the best Rubik's Cubes solvers in the world.
That's great. That's great. That's a great interview technique, my friend, for people in your world. Okay.
That's right.
I can imagine the way you're interviewing your candidates then.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, our operational lead, Tim Otis, who is one of the best human beings on the planet, he plays in 2 bands, and he's recorded. Like you can actually listen to his music on SoundCloud and other places. It's amazing. Like these guys all of them are talented in multiple different ways. And that's the key. Inquisitive, talent. They have intelligence. They have to exercise both the left and the right side of their brains, and they're willing to go into the fight. And when you can find that magic combo, then you got somebody that really wants to do this.
This is what keeps me glued to Checkpoint, frankly, Dan. It really does. It's the caliber of the people. And Eyal, you guys at head office, you are just, I mean, I really mean this. You are so welcoming and adorable, and yet so sharp. I mean, you mentioned, Dan, some of your people, you said some great human. I've had Tim on my show, all his guitars in the background. Absolutely. I've had him on my weekly, Ask Me Anything show. Music, math, right? Obviously, it's language, it's programming. I get it. And it's the same with all our colleagues at head office. And I'll say this, ladies and gentlemen, for those listening. Why haven't you gone to our innovation center in Tel Aviv yet? You know, there's no excuse, really. Go to Tel Aviv. Go see what we're doing there. Go meet people like Eyal and the rest of the team, right? You know, and people will say, well, the reason I can't go is I can't afford it. Nonsense. Here's the example. If your refrigerator at home broke, you need food, right? You need to keep it cool. You'd find the $5,000 to replace the fridge like that. You would. So it's just as important for those of us in this profession to, you know, get a couple of bucks out of our company, maybe grab our own flight, head over to Tel Aviv, sit down with these people. We have an innovation center that's busy every single week, and really dig into the details of these products. We want to partner with you. We don't just want to be a vendor. And listen, this is your responsibility as a customer. Turn us from a vendor into a partner. Right, what Eyal and Dan are talking about today is a partnership. These are people. These are people that are on, and they want to save these networks. I mean, the best password cracker in the world. Come on now, right? We want to have a relationship with you so that we can help you with all of these things. All right, we've got Sunil saying hello from somewhere in the world. I want questions though, comments, push back too. Give us your opinions on everything we're saying here today. Okay, so. All right, SOC. I don't think we've spoken as much about SOC. How does that all tie in? Let me just share my screen real quick, and then I want to come back to a bigger screen with all of us in it. But out of the 5 categories we've got here on Horizon, you know, we've got our SOC. So I'm not pointing on the wrong screen.
Yeah, on the left, number 4. SOC is actually, I would say, the predecessor of extended prevention and response. We've announced SOC 2 years ago, exploring the opportunity to see how we can take gazillion of events from network security gateways and other elements and actually use some AI and deep learning mechanisms so we can take a huge number of alerts of security events and then just crisp them to the very one thing that then can be prevented. This was working very, very great, and we got into a very, very nice adoption of people who are using that. In a second, I will give another like amazing advantage of that, and from SOC, we actually planted the seeds to build extended prevention and response. So let's say that this is the ancient predecessor of XDR. You know what's so unique and interesting about SOC is that when thinking about this industry, I'm a vendor, you are a customer, and I want to do something like AI, ML, you need to send me your events. You need to trust my clouds and send all of your events to my cloud. SOC was, I think, the very first, maybe still the only one in the world that doesn't need the logs. It just looks at some super thin telemetries that are being sent between those gateways and the threat cloud, and just based on that, get all of those anomalies and get all of this awesomeness of understanding that a device has been compromised. Now, we kept this essence, and we have it in our XPR. So assume one of the people here today in this room says, well, gee, I cannot send logs to these guys. I have these privacy regulations, and I still want to have AI and deep learning mechanisms. With us, you can do it because we're using those thin telemetries and not the entire events, and this is a huge difference. So this is SOC. I believe that over time you will see less and less this SOC line and more this XDR. We're kind of bringing them together. And the last one that you saw there, it was called policy, right?
Yeah, I'm bringing it back.
Number 5, I'm waiting for the screen to come up. Here, this is policy, and as you can see, if you look better and closer at Horizon, it doesn't just talk about SOC security operation, it also talks about unified management. And policy is a very innovative, very unique capability that we are bringing to our customer, starting our journey to manage security policy for network security, cloud security, user security from one policy. So some organizations say, I have my network guys, I have my endpoint guys, I don't want them to talk to each other. This is fair. But most of the organizations, it's a waste of time for them to spend the time on different policies. They want just one policy to rule them all. And this is where policy come in place. Hey, Adi, this is a marathon, it's a journey. We're not having every day today right now, but we are certainly going in this journey. We're having some super cool unifications over there today. And, the sky's the limit. We'll see much more.
And I mentioned earlier in this call about policy and the fact that, Checkpoint really nailed that, I think, in the very early days. I mean, I think that Gil Schwed, our founder and CEO, really understood that a unifying policy keeps it, as you said, Dan, clean. Why would a customer want to keep endpoint and network separate? Like, what's the motivation there?
Every organization is different, Eddie. I mean, at the high end, like the big, gigantic banks and big, gigantic corporations, it's about fiefdoms and budget and, keeping their little worlds together. The reality, though, is even those organizations have had to create fusion centers to fuse all of those silos together. So you're back to the same thing, right, if you were to just keep it all together. As you get smaller, though, what you see is the resources really quickly come down to one person typically. And if you're a one-person shop doing, MIS, and security and networking and help desk, there's no way on earth you can do any of this. You just there's not enough time in the day. And right, even medium-sized organizations are getting to the point where they realize that it's much easier to outsource components of this, watch it holistically across each one of these pillars, have a common schema, common approach, common policy. Makes life so much easier than if you were to say, I'm going to have 5,000 point products, 5,000 people to manage those 5,000 point products, and then expect to have a decent outcome. And you won't, because you've got to work holistically together to defend yourself.
Right. Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah. Well, listen, I think we should start to wrap up this show. This is great. So I really mean this. Thank you. Because, there's so much dedication. There are these 16-hour days that go into these things. You're both
16. Eyal, have you ever worked a 16-hour day?
No, it's 18.
Must be on vacation.
I really mean it. I tell you, you specifically, you two, and many others in our organization, most of the people in our organization, have volunteered, and this is the human condition, right? Volunteered to carry the heaviest burden you can possibly carry in life, right? Load me up until my knees are almost buckling, and then just back off a tiny bit. And let's solve some very difficult problems. Like, come on. There's the thing called the Pareto distribution, right? Everybody knows it as the 80-20 rule. 80% of stuff gets done by 20% of the people. This applies to everything, the Pareto distribution. It applies to trees, for crying out loud. 80% of sunlight is soaked up by 20% of trees. All the other trees are in the shadows. So it works everywhere. In music, we know Beethoven, Mozart, Tchaikovsky, right? But there were thousands of classical composers. We only know a handful. And out of the thousands of pieces of work that Beethoven wrote, we only know 2 or 3, right? It's the Pareto distribution goes everywhere. And this world works because of hard-working people doing impossible things, making sure that stuff which always breaks never breaks. So thank you. It's incredible. And to our customers, you're doing the same thing, right? You're in cybersecurity. There's an easier job, that, yet you're doing this. And so, these are the people I want to partner with, right? And I want you to partner with us, because you have adopted this responsibility to protect the internet, to protect the great, what I call the Renaissance 2.0, bringing the world together under the umbrella of one global knowledge system, the internet. And that's going to give birth to genius all over the world. And we've elected to protect that thing, the internet. so that people can be safe online, which is to say, to be safe in life. So with that, I bid everybody really good luck, and reach out to us anytime. You can find us on LinkedIn, right? Very easy. So I've got an unusual name, so you just type in Edwin Eddie Doyle, and I'll pop up immediately. You'll find Dan, you'll find Eyal, and I mean it. Get out to your checkpoint rep and say, hey, I want to come to Tel Aviv. I want to sit down with you. I want to turn you from a vendor into a partner. And you'll find a way. If you're determined, you'll find a way. You will. And we'll see you out there. And it'll be a hell of a party. Tel Aviv is a great place to be. All right. Wonderful. Thank you. I think you guys are amazing. Much appreciate the hour that you've given us here today. Ladies and gentlemen, good luck. All right. Take care.
Bye, everybody.